In this video, we are talking about perfectionism. It's got to be the biggest thing that most people really struggle with, and if you can't get over your perfectionism or you can't learn to manage it, you just simply can't succeed in business, especially as a coach. So stick around for this big conversation. It's a deep dive. There were several ahas as we just dissected and had our own realizations as we were talking. And I know there's going to be something in this conversation to give you a shift. We are going on a journey into the land of Q&A.
Ooh.
We're answering a question that came in from our community. How can perfectionists make their coaching journey easier at the beginning by reducing the pressure they put on themselves, believing they need to be at a high level of expertise to start? So that's the question that came in, and Michelle's answer is?
Stop it.
All right. So should we just end the video?
Yeah. Well, subscribe to the channel.
Oh yeah, we got to tell them to subscribe. Stop it. Yeah.
Please.
And that's the answer, ultimately. And that's what a lot of people do to themselves, is put pressure on themselves by just telling themselves to just stop it.
Yeah.
And that's not realistic for most of us. Otherwise, we would just stop doing the things that we know that we need to stop. So let's dissect this a little bit. Pressure is a really important word that's here in the question itself.
Mm-hmm.
We do not do well with pressure. Most of us don't do well with pressure. I'm trying to think what humans do well with pressure, or like what things do humans do that they can do well with pressure? Not a whole lot. Because pressure just increases anxiety for the most part. And in the world of coaching, if you're doing videos or if you're marketing or want to get your message out there, you're trying to create a business, you're trying to sell, the worst thing that a lot of people could experience is pressure. Pressure to get it right, pressure to not mess up, pressure to look good. When we pressurize our performance usually drops. And because our performance drops, then we put more pressure on ourselves, because that's not okay, right? Did you say something?
Yeah, I said, yep.
Yeah. So then it becomes a cycle, right? We demand that we do it right or do it perfect. And because of the pressure we have, we don't produce perfection, which then feeds the demand to be perfect, to make up for what we just messed up on, or, you know, whatever the internal head talk is. But it usually comes in the form of threat. Like, you better do this or else nobody's going to like you, or nobody's going to buy, or they're all going to hate you, or they're going to abandon you, and they're all going to unsubscribe or get off your email list, or nobody's going to listen. And that kind of threat pressures the pressure, which then decreases the performance. And then it's just easier to not do anything. Do you know anything about this? Have you heard of people that were like trying to be perfect or really trying to pressure themselves?
Yeah, I've read a couple books.
Got it.
Yeah. Heard of those mystical creatures. Yeah. That's how I spent the majority of my life. Miserable and tense and stressed out and like super high strung and anxious with under all of that pressure. And I mean, and to answer my experience, your question of like, can we actually, and maybe you didn't even ask it this way, but can we perform, right? Can we perform under pressure? Sure. Is it our best performance? it's never been my best performance ever. But I can do it. I can get it done. I can force it to happen. I can make it be a miserable experience, but I'm tense and I'm stressed out. And that doesn't even open up the creativity, which coaching is a creative process, right? Writing blog articles, social media posts, all the things, videos that the coaches are doing early on in their journeys. Those are creative processes, and the pressure to do that. I mean, I felt like for years there was somebody standing like over my like behind me, over my shoulder, like just like staring at me and telling me like, you better get this right. And actually, as I say that, that's not true. It was, you better not mess this up. You better not get this wrong. Like, don't screw up. Right. Like everything was riding, like in my story, everything was riding on every action that I took, every word that I spoke, every decision that I made, every social media post. Like it was like all or nothing. Like my whole business could implode if I put out a post that somebody didn't like.
It's important to dissect what you said, that you better not screw this up is really what the voice was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Not you better perform or it better be perfect.
Yeah.
So many of us are living in this fear of the not,
Mm-hmm.
where we think we're wanting to win, but really what we're wanting is to not lose.
Yep.
And that kind of focus with the kind of pressure that you were just talking about truly has no good outcome.
Mm-mm.
Because the anxiety and the pressure will lower the performance
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. And if the performance is low, well, then it's not perfect, which then feeds into the negative head talk and the self-punishment.
Yep.
But even if the pressure creates a perfect performance or a good enough performance to not lose, you still didn't win.
Right.
So all you've done is not lose a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of times. And most people who are in this cycle of the fear of the not don't actually experience the thing that they want to experience, because at best they're just not experiencing the thing that they don't want to experience.
Right.
And those are not the same.
No.
Succeeding is not the same as not failing.
Right.
And we're terrified of not failing. We're afraid, or we're terrified of failing. We're terrified of being abandoned. We're terrified of the judgment that other people might have. And so if all we're trying to do is avoid the thing that we're terrified of, we actually aren't giving ourselves the experience of the thing that we want. And then we just stay stuck in that cycle right there. And it truly is a lose-lose scenario.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's miserable. I was miserable.
So what allowed you to get over whatever hump you had to get over? Was there a single moment or a gradual lesson that you had to learn to get out of that perfection misery?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that really stood out to me is recognizing that my perfectionism was not the problem. My perfectionism was actually the solution to the problem. And so for a long time, I just wrestled with, right, how do I stop being a perfectionist, right?
Right.
But that wasn't actually, like, that wasn't the issue. The perfection was protecting me from the abuse that I was hearing over my shoulder and the threats that I was hearing over my shoulder of, I better not mess this up, right? And if you do, like, you're going to lose everything. So once I was able to realize that, which didn't come on my own, it absolutely came through coaching, through support. I don't know of anybody who's been able to like heal their relationship with this without having coaching support. If you do, Please speak to that, but I personally don't. And then I looked at what the actual issue was for me. And when I gave myself the permission to be myself and understand that the people that I was serving inside of a coaching relationship, the people that I was serving actually wanted to see me as I was, because they were wrestling with their own relationship with perfection. When I recognize that my desire to achieve the thing that's actually not possible anyway, and I'm going to change that, my commitment to achieving the thing that's not possible anyway was protecting me from the people who actually needed me to show up as I authentically am. That started to shift everything for me.
Man, there's so much to this conversation. There's so many depths, because we don't arrive here overnight. We don't just flip on the switch right away. And so there's many layers to this for most of us. And I would say for most of us, this is created in our childhood, when at some point in time we were taught that being perfect is the way to get recognition or love or acceptance, or being not perfect is the way to get punished, or having those things that we want withheld. And then we start this pattern that you just spoke to, that perfection is the way that we can avoid the punishment. So we think that if we can be perfect, then we won't mess up. And the internal pressure that creates it's so all encompassing for so many of us. And the more that we try to improve our skills, if we're in that perfectionism cycle, skill improvement is probably the worst thing. That's like somebody being in the withdrawal phase of getting off drugs, and to avoid the feelings of withdrawal, you give them another hit of the thing that they're trying to get off of, right? Like, you're feeding into the idea, the illusion that getting better from a skill standpoint or a performance standpoint is the answer. And it's not. So if we have a problem with perfectionism, the way around it is not to get better. In fact, I'll say the way around it is to feel what it's like when you're not perfect and it still works. Like what you said about how a lot of people need you to not be perfect. So we need to feel the positive effects of our imperfections. So we need to heal our relationship to imperfect. We don't need to get better. And we've been trying to get better for all these years anyway. And we never hit perfect, nor does it work. So the answer is the opposite of what most people think the answer is. But we got to get out of that cycle. To your point, you're not going to do it. Pretty much nobody's going to do it on their own, because we're in the cycle. And so our perspective is in there. And while we're in that cycle of perfectionism, we think the answer is to get better. And it's really to be okay with not being perfect. But it has to be more than just a cute little meme. It has to be more than just an affirmation. It has to be more than just this intellectual awareness. It really has to be an experience. Again, what you said, your seekers, the people that need your message, need to see you imperfect. And you probably need people, maybe you needed it back then, to say, I appreciate the fact that you're not perfect. I appreciate the fact that you still struggle with a lot of this stuff. Like, me seeing your humanity actually allowed me to see myself in you. And therefore I want more, right? Like, we need to see that our imperfection is actually a better magnet than the perfection.
It's a better mirror. I mean, if we're perfect and they know they're not perfect, right? So they know that them back there, not this person, like, I don't know why I point back there. They know that they're not perfect. So why are they going to listen to me if I come across as perfect? How are you going to help me with your flawless self? And also, nothing's perfect. And I know that, even though I'm trying to be that. So I don't trust you anyway.
It's so, and it's just easier. It's so much easier to
Oh my God.
be not perfect and then just rock that. Just go into service, go into your performance, your marketing, your videos, whatever it is that you're doing. Go into it being imperfect and highlight it. There's nothing wrong with highlighting the imperfections. Not only is there nothing wrong with it, it'll actually create a lot more trust than we think it will. I want to go back to where we started and the idea of not failing. So we've been in a couple conversations recently, and one of them even just before we started recording this, about how we walk around and we try to protect a thing that we don't have. But because we're in this place of not wanting to lose, we're in this cycle of avoiding the not, we're actually trying to not lose something that we don't even have. Do you remember the context of the conversation a week or two ago that we were having where this really landed?
I do. Yeah. Do you want to know what it is?
Do you want to tell us? That, yeah, it was actually more
Can I
than
have a
just a
drum
yes
roll?
or no question.
I
You want a drum roll?
think so.
I just have a drum leg. You want me to send you a drum leg?
Nah, I'll be all
Okay.
right. Yeah, it was about my relationship with my mom when I was a child. Mhm. Yeah, and trying to like be perfect to not lose the nurturing and the like and the love, like to not lose that thing that I actually I didn't have. Mhm. Yeah.
It's such a big realization.
Mhm.
I mean, I know for both of us, it just landed like like a thud.
Yeah.
We try to avoid losing a thing we don't even have. So if we succeed in not losing it, but we don't have it anyway, then what have we gained? So the whole thing, like our whole lives, become us guarding something that we don't have so that the thing we don't have doesn't get taken away from us. And then we just get stuck in this fear of loss, but never actually gaining anything. Like we don't experience the thing, but we don't want to lose it. And it's just this constant never-ending cycle of like nothingness. I mean, just shallow
Yeah.
nothingness. And like the best that we can do is not lose.
And because we're protected, we're not even open up to the possibility of somebody else even giving it to us. Right? So like if I'm trying to keep or I'm trying to not lose the approval that I don't actually have, and I'm trying to keep all of this guarded, then even if you have approval to give me, you can't get in because I'm protected. Yeah.
Bless our hearts.
For real. Yeah. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
I was thinking a couple of days ago, somebody asked me how I have all the energy that I have. And it just occurred to me a moment ago when you were talking, and I was like, oh, because I don't do that anymore. So I'm not like stressed out and exhausted. I spend a lot of energy. I mean, it is a full-time job to be striving for protection and to live your life trying to not be found out as who you really are. I mean, it's like you're living your life twice. So now I have double the energy.
Wow, that's huge. So you just recognize that you're just not spending a lot of the energy that you were before on the protecting. And so then you can actually use it for something else, or just not be digging those holes.
Yeah.
That's massive. And it's a full-time job. The exhaustion that comes with inauthenticity, specifically with perfectionism, is breathtaking. Literally breathtaking. I mean, it takes our breath. It takes our breath away. It doesn't allow us to grow. It doesn't allow us to take risks. If we allow it to take hold of us, it'll just squeeze everything out of us. Perfectionism will squeeze the life out of our soul and out of our dreams, because it's so scared of not losing the thing that it doesn't even have. In the coaching world, this is a big issue. This came from our coaching community.
Yeah.
And it's a common one, some version of this. To speak to the specific context of coaching, I would say, number one, have some gratitude that you give a damn.
Yeah.
Because the fact that you want to be perfect means you want to be really, really good. Even if it means you don't want to mess up, it means that you don't want to mess up for your clients. It means that you actually want to help people. So I want you to focus on dissolving the grip that perfectionism has on you, but retain your give a damn. Retain the idea that you still want to be really good. And the reason that's an important distinction to make is because a lot of people think that in order to get over perfectionism, you have to just stop caring about the quality. You have to just stop, not giving a beep, right? 0 F's given. That's not realistic. I mean, if you really truly don't care, you shouldn't be helping people.
Right.
You shouldn't even be in this industry, right? So the answer is not to get to the point where you don't care. The answer is to still care and want high quality,
Right.
but not be committed to perfectionism. What was the term that I think came up in the foundations course? Excellencism? Like,
Yes.
what if we were committed to excellence? Excellencism is okay, because excellence is a standard that, number one, is realistic to reach, but it's also flexible. So what excellence means in one area can be different than what excellence means in another area, or from one person to another person. And excellence is attainable, but perfection is not. And in order to be excellent in this world, you mostly just need to show up to serve people, like really, truly help people. It doesn't matter that you are the best coach out there. Don't compare yourself to other coaches anyway. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons that coaches struggle with perfectionism is because they're comparing their current self to somebody that's way better.
Yep.
They're comparing themselves to somebody that's been doing it for 10 years or 20 years. Or they're comparing themselves to a version of themselves, their own selves, that's more ideal, right? Like, I'm not as good as I'm going to be, so I'm not going to start yet until I'm as good as I'm going to be, which can only happen by starting where I am and getting better and better. And I get it. I totally get it. This isn't meant to speak down to anybody. I was a raging perfectionist. I know you obviously were. And
Raging.
right. Raging. There's probably a lot that goes into that word. Right. And the reality is we set ourselves up for sabotage quite often, I'd say most of the time, by comparing ourselves to the wrong thing. We shouldn't be looking to the left and to the right and comparing ourselves to other teachers or to other coaches that are doing this work, because that's not who you're teaching anyway.
Right.
That's not who you're trying to attract anyway.
Right.
So you comparing yourself to me when I'm not your seeker, or you comparing yourself to Michelle when she's not your seeker,
Right.
you comparing yourself to anybody who's not the person you're trying to help is a waste of time.
Mhm.
And it's going to end up being a waste of energy, because if you use that comparison to then create this perfectionism, to then try to get yourself over this standard, over this hill that your expectations just built out of the blue for yourself to jump over, that's a totally irrelevant hill, because it's only relevant to the people that aren't going to hire you anyway.
Mhm.
Then all of that energy is wasted.
Yeah.
Here's what matters. Can you help this person, whoever this person is? Can you help your seeker? Can you help the person that's looking for your lessons? And by the fact that they're looking for your lessons means you can help them, because
Right.
they're already looking for the lessons that you have.
Right.
And they don't care that you, your entity, your physical body, your website, your YouTube channel, they don't care that you're not the best out there. They don't care that you might not stack up compared to other people that have been doing it for a long, long time. The people that you learn from are not the people that you should be comparing yourself to,
Right.
because
Oof.
your seeker doesn't care.
Yeah.
What your seeker cares is what you serve to them, because they're not looking at all the other people that you're comparing yourself to. They're looking at you. And if they're looking at you, but you're looking over here because you're waiting to get better than that person to square up to this person who's just asking you for your answers to their questions, that's disrespectful to this person. And the quote that I heard many years ago that totally shifted my world, because I was doing this exact same thing. That's one of the reasons why I get so animated about it. The quote is, to a third grader, a fourth grader is a god. That was so important for me to hear in that moment, because this is about 4 or 5 years ago, I was comparing myself to all of these other coaches who were better than me in my worldview, in my perspective, in my judgment. They were all better than me. So I didn't have permission to put videos up. I didn't have permission to speak my truth. I didn't have permission to do a lot of stuff, because I wasn't as good as those people. Essentially, I was in 4th grade learning from 7th graders how to get into high school. And I was trying to teach a lot of people what I was learning, or I was getting angry at the 7th grade teachers because they weren't teaching the way I thought they should be teaching. They weren't matching what I thought they should be from a moral standpoint or a teaching standpoint or whatever. And so I was completely dismissing the 3rd graders that were behind me, going, hey, can you help us here? Can you help us with the things that you can help us with, rather than concerning yourself with all the stuff that we don't care about? And that was such a massive shift for me to recognize that I've been on this journey for a long time. And no matter where any of you are in your coaching business, you've been on the human journey for a long time.
Yeah.
There's somebody that you can help. Somebody. And if you can help somebody, then take your focus off all the people that are going to stop you from doing just that.
Yeah.
Focus on the people that you can help. And if you are a 3rd grader, then help 2nd graders. And if you're a 1st grader, then help people in kindergarten. And if you're a 5-year-old, then help 3-year-olds. There's somebody that you can help. And very rarely will you be helping people with the same lessons that you're currently learning. As we're climbing a mountain, we're reaching back to help people on that same mountain to get to where we are. but not to get to where we're trying to go because they're behind us. And that visual for me was so critical to give myself that internal permission to stop beating myself up for being better than the people that don't care about me. I don't care about them. I'm not trying to sell to them anyway. Like, it's like, what am I doing here? It's just such a waste of energy. And those people that are meant for me are the ones that lose out.
Yeah.
So I think that's the real big key here, is focus on who you can support and support them. What were you going to say?
Just that I felt it when you turned your head, when you looked away, right? Just that image when I'm looking at you and you're looking at them.
Yeah. Like, hold on a second. I'm going to listen to what you're asking me as soon as I get perfect, or as soon as I get better than them. You hold on, because you're not important.
Yeah. Like, I just felt that. Yeah. I remember a friend of mine years ago, when her son was 5, she got pregnant. And when she had her second son, he was so excited because he said, "Oh my gosh, he knows nothing. I have to teach him everything." And I when you were sharing that story just now, I was remembering that moment because I thought it was so sweet of him. Just 5, right? He doesn't know everything. He's 5, but
Right.
compared to his new baby brother, he's like, oh, like he has no idea how to move in this world. I got to teach him everything. And if we just had that
Amazing.
attitude, yeah. And the other piece for me that really shifted is what we teach inside of our program, which is he who has the problem has the solution. I am not, I'm not the savior. I'm not the fixer. I'm not the one that is going to, my expertise is not what is going to like deliver. I don't have the client's breakthrough. They have their breakthrough. Now, are there things that over practicing and skills and implementation and doing and coaching and getting better? 100%. But early on in my journey, when I recognized that, I remember where I was when I heard that in our breakthrough coaching certification training. And I was like, yes. Oh, I'm off the hook. Like, it was just like liberating, because when I'm worried about being perfect, I need to have this high level of expertise. To what you said, Sean, it does come from this beautiful place of caring. I want to help these people. I really want to do a good job. I want to show up well for them. I don't want to mess them up, right? I want to really be able to serve them. And when I recognize I don't have that in me to give to them, so what I need to do is release this perfection, because when I'm in that place, I'm focused on me. I'm not focused on them. I'm looking this way. I'm not looking at them. So I'm not actually making any kind of connection that's going to allow me to be able to show up for them and be present and in rapport and ask the questions that they need me to ask, because I'm so worried about how I look or sound or what's the right tool to be able to use. And if I just show up for them, like, it's in them, and I can help guide that out of them. But my skill set, it's important, and it's I mean, I don't want to say it's not important, but it's not the thing that gives the client the breakthrough.
Yeah. So the skills that are important are the ones that allow us to pull the breakthrough out of the client.
Right.
And what that does is it shifts the, what's the best way to put it? It shifts the, like, where the breakthrough actually is, or where our confidence is.
Yes.
It shifts the onus, or it shifts the source of our confidence. So our confidence as a coach doesn't need to come from our perfection and our ability to answer all the questions. The source comes from us knowing that whoever has the problem has the solution. And then us knowing that our curiosity, on top of understanding how the human mind works and understanding, some cool coaching tools that we can use, our confidence is that we can help guide them there, and that they can get there, and the client wants to have a breakthrough. People want to shed whatever skin is, getting in their way of living the life that they want to live. There's already leverage for people to get better. And if we know that they have the answers, to your point, then even the way that we practice our skills can change, because the way we understand our skills will change. And our skills are only valuable, relevant to our ability to help them have their own breakthrough.
Yes.
But that's not the way that we're programmed. We're programmed that our skills are relevant to us being judged according to our performance.
Right.
And that's why we put so much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a huge piece. I'm really glad you brought that up, that they have the answers and we're facilitating. We're not magic. But the results can be magical if we can help somebody untie their knots, right? Most of us are not magic. Just one of you is magic. The other piece to this is how valuable transparency is in actually getting the thing that we're afraid of losing. Meaning, what so many of us are afraid of is that if people knew the truth about us, they wouldn't like us anymore. And so we try to not lose the admiration that we don't have. Sometimes we don't have it because they don't even know we exist, right? Because we're not visible.
Right.
Or sometimes we don't have that admiration or the acceptance because we haven't shown people who we are. They may have accepted the protection layers that we've shown them. They may have accepted the not version of ourselves, the inauthentic version of ourselves, but that doesn't mean they've accepted our true self. So there again, we're trying to protect something that we don't really actually have. And it's natural. I think we all as humans are on some level concerned about, and a lot of us are scared of, some of us are terrified of being abandoned, being unchosen, being let go of, people dismissing us. But what we got to remember is the very thing that we don't want them to find out because we're afraid that if they do, they won't like us, is probably the thing that when they find out will cause them to fall in love with us.
Yep.
It's the same thing. We're terrified that if this thing is known, they'll leave us, when in reality, if this thing is known, they'll probably hire us. I mean, there's been a lot of times where people have told me that they only hired me for a certain reason, and that reason is one of the things that I didn't want anybody to know. Like for me, one of the big ones was bankruptcy. When I filed bankruptcy in 2009, I don't want anybody to know about that because I figured if they knew about that, then they would think I'm a failure. The reason I thought that is because I knew about it and I thought I was a failure.
Right.
So if I think I'm a failure because I filed bankruptcy, well, then they'll probably think I'm a failure because I filed bankruptcy too. So the only way to avoid their judgment of me is for them to not know. And I think I carried that around for probably 3 or 4 years, I would say. I'm trying to remember the year of the event. I remember the event. It was in North Carolina. I remember the event. I'm not sure the year right now, but I think it was 3 or 4 years later. And I had just been stuffing that, making sure nobody heard, nobody knew about it. Because, I mean, who's going to hire a life coach who filed bankruptcy, right? I'm the success guy that can help you achieve your goals. And, if I filed bankruptcy.
Right.
I didn't think anybody would. And so I didn't want to share it, but I kept it in for so long that it started to affect me. I stopped liking me. I stopped liking my work. And I don't remember the catalyst. It was some version of a coaching call, I'm sure, where I recognized what the actual issue was. And it was because I was being out of integrity
Yep.
by holding this in. And one of the things that I really want to be is authentic.
Yeah.
So I was out of integrity with myself by holding this thing in. And I remember I wrote it in the agenda. I actually put it in the agenda to
Nice.
tell the bankruptcy story. And then as the event wound down, I saw what was on the agenda. I saw what was coming up. I knew that B word was coming up. And I was having all these internal conversations as I was still teaching. You know, there's probably 50 people in the room or so. And inside, there was just this battle of, you better not say,
Right.
you better not tell them. And then this other side, but yeah, we got to tell them. It's on the agenda. We got to tell them. We got to get this secret out. No, you better not tell them. If you tell them, nobody will hire you. They're all going to ask for a refund. You're going to be shamed. And like, this battle was going on inside my head as I was still teaching, as I was moving toward, you know, the moment. And I can remember I had convinced myself I wasn't going to say it. And then I convinced myself I needed to say it. And then I reconvinced myself I wasn't going to say it. And then when it came up, like the moment of truth, I was in the space where I wasn't going to say it. But then it's like, it just like crept out of my mouth, right? Like, no, we've decided we're not saying this. Well, I'm leaving, right? And it came out of my mouth and I felt my body react. Like I just wanted to go grab it and take it back, right? And make sure nobody heard.
Okay.
But once it was out, it was out. I finished the story and I told them, one of the things that makes me a good coach is that bankruptcy, because I learned a lot. I learned a lot about strategies. I learned a lot about my relationship to money. I learned a lot about confronting fears. I learned a lot about my identities. I had to ask myself who I am without the money that I had, or who am I with this bankruptcy on my record, and who am I not, and what do I want to teach, and what really lights me up. Like I had to ask so many questions to get through that. And that's one of the reasons why I can help anybody, not just with bankruptcy, but help anybody deal with big confrontations like that. So I shared it, and there was two people came up to me afterwards. There were more, but these two people stood out. The first one was a man, and he said, how dare you tell people that they should file bankruptcy? And he said some version of, I just lost all my respect for you. Here you show up and you tell people to file bankruptcy, like, and you're a life coach. I mean, he essentially fulfilled my biggest fear, right? And then the woman right after him said, I'm going to hire you as a coach because I'm heading toward bankruptcy, and I think you might be the only one that can help me because you've been through it. That was so big for me to experience. The same thing that I was afraid of actually did happen. But right behind it was the thing that I don't even think in the moment I was hoping would happen. I don't even think I was even thinking that far. I don't think I was saying, if I share this story, somebody's going to hire me because I shared this story. I just could not share the story anymore because it was eating away at my insides. I just was trying to get rid of the tension.
Yeah.
But it was so profound for me to have the thing that I was afraid of, and then right behind it, have this result because of the very same thing. So I shared a story. I just made sounds with my mouth. One person took it this way. The other person took it the exact opposite way. Now, the guy isn't my seeker, and the woman was. So how often do we withhold the things that we don't want anybody to know about because we're afraid that they're going to turn some people off? And the reality is they will, but they will turn off the people that you're not meant for anyway. And if it's going to attract the people that you are meant for, that are meant for you, the ones that are seeking you, and for some of them, that's the main thing that they need to hear. That might be the final thing that causes them to hire you, or causes them to buy a package or join a email list or something like that. It's that thing that you were so afraid of sharing. That's the thing they needed to hear. Without that thing, the person that judged you wouldn't have judged you, but the person that hired you wouldn't have hired you. So how, yeah, adapter drop. That was good. So how much longer are we going to protect ourselves from the thing that probably won't happen? And if it does, it'll come from the people that we're not meant for anyway. But in that process, we'll attract the people who need to know that they can succeed, or they can win, or they can be happy, even with the imperfections, even with the stains on our record. Now, the one caveat I would add to that is when you share a vulnerable story, it's important that you're not still in the quicksand of the story.
Right.
So if I hadn't learned a bunch of lessons from it, if I couldn't use that story to teach,
Right.
then I wouldn't have been valuable to the lady that hired me.
Right.
So we have to be on the other side of it. I'm putting that in air quotes, because it has to be valuable to other people. And if we're still in the middle and we haven't learned the lessons, then it's probably not valuable to other people. Yet. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'm glad you said that. Yet.
Yeah. Mm. It's only absolutely 100% been my experience. I mean, I've lived on both sides, right? Like I've lived on both sides. Well, I mean, I functioned on one side and I lived on the other. Yeah.
That's a good distinction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's 100% my experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even if, now, this doesn't mean we just air all of our dirty laundry.
Oh, I was going to go get some. No.
I mean, you can. What it means, though, is that we live authentically.
Yeah.
And we can still strategically not tell certain stories, but not because we're afraid that people won't like us.
Right.
That's what we got to get rid of. We got to get rid of the idea that we can't be authentic, because if we are, then people are going to leave us. Mm-hmm. When we can clear our relationship to that, then it's totally fine to not tell certain stories. There's plenty of times I don't tell the bankruptcy story because it's not relevant. Right. Or I just don't have time to tell it, or it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm going to invite people into next. Right. There's nothing wrong with strategically not telling stories. So please don't think that I'm saying you got to just tell everything about your business to everybody all the time. That's not true. But you can't be a victim of the fear of being real. That's the shit.
We're not even protecting ourselves. We're protecting the people who need the lesson from the lesson. Yeah. Adapter drop.
Adapter drop.
That's a new thing now.
That is. We just started it. Hashtag adapter drop. Yeah. That's so big. What we're really protecting is the people from their lessons.
Yeah.
So the answer is
stop it. No.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly.
Did I get it wrong? Did I mess up?
You did it right. You can stay for another few videos. Awesome. Well, hopefully this is helpful and meaningful and can support you taking action. If there's anything more that we can do, sign up for a free consultation call. There's a link in the description, and we'll support you, whether it's inner game or strategy or anything at all in your life and or your business. Take us up on the offer to help. And take a look at some of the memberships. We got memberships now. Did you know that?
Memberships to what?
Yeah, to theme parks all around the globe.
Are those open?
Right.
Disney's open, right?
My wife is going to Disneyland in like a week and a half.
Oh, wow.
But what I found out is the theme parks aren't, or the rides aren't open. So it's just food and shopping. But it's still cool. It's Disneyland. And so she's going there with some friends that just want to, experience Disneyland.
Yeah.
So yes, kind of is the answer.
Perfect.
Right. So we do have some memberships if you're interested in supporting the channel a little bit monthly, but also getting more connection with us and taking part in some of the polls that we have for some of our members. And we are creating extra videos for our members, and we're doing some deep dive coaching sessions at the higher tier. If any of that is exciting, enticing, intriguing to you, then click the join button and you can see the different levels that we have available. And if not, no worries, nothing changes on the channel, and we'll just continue to pump out videos for you guys. Perfect videos.
Perfect. Flawless.
Exactly. Now, if you like this video, check out that video. It's the entire first module of our online certification program, all about coaching with confidence.
Coaching is guiding. Coaching is exploring. Coaching is what we call holding space for other people to find their own truth.